prior to that, you know, obviously you've got to get your breathing rate up, you've got your pulse rate up, you've got to get the blood around the system. Were you doing intervals of sort of 45 seconds plus?
A minute plus, combined with shooting eventually, so the last 10 shots with the raised pulse, just to get that feeling.
So Rastaguyev is underway, and he's certainly looked more consistent this year. His standing shooting has certainly improved this season, so it'll be interesting to see what he does today.
Remember 2 years ago,
yeah,
here, incredible. He dropped his glasses, which cost him 5 seconds. He went back for them, and he lost the race by 5.8 seconds to Shipulin.
Jakub Fak, who has had an okay season. I think 12th place. He probably would have settled for that before the start of the year. And I wonder what his highlight is in his career. Is it that silver? Must be the silver medal from Pyeongchang when he was second in the individual, hitting all the targets.
Yes, and of course a couple of World Championships medals, gold medals. He has had a fantastic career. Ukraine team very much coming into their best form of the season towards the end of the season.
Well, Prima had a bit of a sticky sprint in Nowe Miasto. Was going well at the halfway stage and then missed 3 in the stand. He needs to put that to the back of his mind. Had a much better mass start, finished 13th. In fact, he was higher than that. He was 11th, went clear on both the prones, which is so key in those mass starts. What an extraordinary race that was, with Johannes Tingesbø missing a shot on the first 3 shoots, and each time coming back from a deficit. What did it average? 20-21 seconds, and coming back, getting to the front, then hitting the last 5.
We haven't seen the likes of that for a very long time. The turn of pace there to get himself back up to the front before the next bout of shooting was phenomenal.
Yaliot now for Belarus. PB of 14th, and he got that in Oberhof this year. Sprints have been okay, hitting 9 out of 10 on average. Had a bit of a disaster in Annecy, missed 3 in the prone. I don't think that was a particularly windy day. Annecy, the weather was miserable, wasn't it? We had more rain than anything else.
It's a strange season, of course it has been, and most days we're on wet snow.
Now this man could be the pace setter for the early starters. Johannes Dahle, he's a real fighter, Mike. It's going to be interesting. He's sort of short and stocky, so he's not your typical Norwegian build.
He's not, but he's got that width through the hips, you know, that Shetland pony strength that you need to skate over these tracks, and the chest capacity. He's brilliant. He's only 22-year-old. He's had a fabulous season, Dahle. 9th and 6th last week, and 9th in the sprint, 6th in the mass start.
Mario Dolder is next now. Early days. Who do you think is going to set the fastest split time up to 1.6, which is the first split that we'll get?
I think it's not difficult. Later on, of course, Bib 26.
Okay, maybe I should ask, how far behind is Fourcade going to be at 1.6? Will he try and go with it? Or do you think he'll try and race his own race, knowing that if he gets a top 6 today, the Crystal Globe may well be his?
I think he'll try and stay with it. So Johannes Ting is more likely to set the fastest time, and Fourcade chasing it.
Giegana. Nice to see him racing again. It's been a poor season by his standards, down in 28th in the standings, and he's much better than that. 15th in the last sprint in Nowe Miasto last week, so he'd like to repeat. Something like that would be good. Benedikt Doll, one of the unorthodox skiers on the tour. You don't often see a technique that where you could sort of just see the silhouette and you'd know exactly who it is.
Yeah, and I suppose technically, if you were critical, you would pick out some inefficiencies, but that inefficiency, he's normally setting the top 5 fastest ski times. So maybe it's just the visual, the upper body moving a little bit too much.
Yeah, possibly. To me, it just appears the timing isn't quite as crisp as many of the others. Loganov back in action. Doesn't look any happier than he did at the end of the Antolz era. He'd probably be glad to see the back of this season and the controversy all around his previous doping offences. And you can't help but talk about it, Mike, because that is the issue. The question is, as your career goes on and your offence gets further and further behind you, do the public, do the other athletes forget it more and more?
They normally do, but certainly not in Loganov's case. And there was an issue with accreditation, and that's why the police did raid his room at 6 o'clock in the morning. Some other accreditation had been arranged, so it was reason enough for them to take his phone and his laptop.
I think they've got, you know, I understand your point of view that it was harsh on Loganov, but you know, if you don't do that sort of thing, people think they can get away with it again. And sometimes you're going to be right, sometimes you'll be wrong.
I agree, but you know, if I would agree that everybody that that has spent 2 years away gets a hard time. But for me, there's only one person that gets that hard time, and it's Loganov.
Lapshin, and what can we guarantee from him? That he'll shoot fast in the prone, he'll ski hard, but the accuracy has been a little bit of a problem. Still 74% in the prone, and you know, so often he produces the fastest shooting time, but 74% prone is at least 10% below where it has to be, and 15% where it should be to be really competitive.
I'd like to see, he'll probably show us today he'll get 5 out of 5 rapid fire. Last week he tried it and he missed 3 out of 5 in an instant, and he hit all the stand last week.
Now Leitner, is he going to be the future of Austrian skiing? They've got too many veterans in the team for many coaches' liking. The Landertingers and the Aders have been there for a long, long time now. Nice to see Leitner coming through.
Very much. Talented, extremely talented, medals at junior championships. I think he is the bright future for Austrian biathlon. And I was really surprised last week how the Austrian team's form had dropped, their ski form had dropped way back. Yes, skis were a factor, but the performances last week, a shake of the head. They were disappointed as they crossed the finish line. 6:51 into the range. This could be one of the fastest times.
Well, we'll keep an eye on the times, because obviously they indicate, one, how hard someone's trying, but also what sort of speed the tracks are running at. On the question of form, Mike, we've just had the World Championships, and there are definitely nations, Sweden included, Austria are one of them, Ukraine, we think, are one of them, who put all their eggs into those major championships. They're not really too fussed about the World Cup. So when you compare them on the World Cup to the Norways and the Frances and the Germanys, Russia, they're way below, but their peak, they're aiming to get their peak during that 2-week period.
I think that is true, and that brings the money in to create your program for the next year. But I was surprised to see them drop off physically by so much. Jakob Fak, it was good last week. Could he go from 5th onto the podium this week? It's quite likely today.
Yeah, I would like to see federations award World Cup positions at the end of the season rather than just a World Championship race. You know, who knows? You could break a ski, you could get a gust of wind. That can ruin your chances for that season and the next season. Whereas the overall World Cup is a very, very good indicator of where you lie in the world.
It's a serious test, isn't it? How you produce results from end of November all the way through till close to the end of March.
I wonder how much time Lapshin has spent in Korea over the last few years. He doesn't want to be there at the moment.
3 weeks at the Olympics.
3 weeks in Pyeongchang, of course.
Yeah. Oh, these hills. I'm hoping to be here in 2 weeks' time for the Masters Championships with a group of 10. And these hills look so easy when you're on them. Oh, especially this hill. And again, made to look so easy coming up this incredible climb.
Well, I beg to differ there. The great shot is as someone comes up the hill, and you can see how long they spend on it, and then a little dot of a skier appears at the bottom of the climb. You realise that it's a long, long way, and you know, this is much longer than your average sort of 25-second hill.
It is, and there are no others like this. Last weekend in Nowe Miesto, it was steeper, but it was only 10 seconds. This goes on for a full 30 seconds.
And then you get to the top, and it goes up again. Not so steep, but just enough to kill you off if you push too hard on that early section. So Dale, same sort of time as Jakub Fak coming in. We would have expected that. Rastiguyev's also with a decent time. And Rastiguyev missing 2 on that first prone. What was he playing at there?
You just feel that so far, all right, we've only got 6 athletes, everybody taking their time to build their position and get some recovery in after that major climb. Kurvanen targets this week, counterbalance as you hit, and the factory's only 20 k's down the road will make these targets.
Well, the cameraman, you can tell when there's someone relatively new on the tour because the cameraman doesn't know whether to go left or right, right to left. Dale obviously shooting from left to right on that occasion, missing the middle shot. Now, Gigener, a clear shoot and a top 10 finish, and I think the whole season will be forgotten. He can just build for 2021.
And we've sympathised all season with Gigener. He's been given Group 4 in every race. Today, he's the only Frenchman in Group 1, so I think certainly ski time is an advantage right now.
Now the French are hoping the weather gets a little bit colder as the race goes on. There is a possibility. 2 hours ahead of UK time.
The cameraman is confused.
Good start, a very, very good start. Now that's encouraging for Gigener. Not a bad insurance policy to have when you've put most of your eggs in one basket. Mike, to have someone like Gigener on Group 1.
Yes, very much. And I was surprised to see Benny Dole in at the same time as Gigener leaving.
Benny Dole goes to the right and gets himself the green light. Little stumble there, but he's looking in pretty good shape.
Loginov back in good ski form. He's 3rd place into range, 4 seconds behind Dole.
Oh, he's quick, but loose. So Bjørntegard of Norway enters as Johannes Tingesbø of Norway prepares to lead or leave the start gate. And Johannes has got bib 26, last one in Group 1. That's probably perfect. Or do you think he'd like to be starting behind Pfeiffer and Fourcade and Jacquelin and Phil Maillet?
I think he'd prefer to be behind them, but at least he's got bib 26, so the snow might be more favourable than later on.
Yeah, and it almost means he's certainly going to go hard on that first group, because what he loves, nothing he loves more than Fourcade getting a split that says you're 15 seconds down on a certain Norwegian.
It's affected him so, and isn't it incredible when Johannes Tingesbø was back home becoming a dad. Fourcade won all 4 races.
Yeah, he looked
which
like
he wasn't there. He was born again.
Looked like he did back in 2017, where he got through to the very last race of the season before he was pushed off the podium. Dole leading, 7:41. Nothing too exciting happening at the moment. We've got a long way to go on the start sheet. Over 100 starters today. Now, what's the time on that? Normally 24, 23.3. He's not changed his tactics, and he's not hit any more than normal.
Well, or he missed one fast, but it's still a 23-second penalty loop, 24 seconds today in the slow conditions.
Yeah, so he saved 2 seconds, lost 24.
It's tough, and it's horrible having to turn left onto that penalty loop. Leitner, before he gets buried in behind those eye blinders left and right, he had a little look at the flags. Surprisingly, in this range, Patrick, we always get a windy conditions here. It's very calm today. And again, everybody taking their time, but that's because of the wall, the steep climb, and then only a further minute 30 skiing into the range. You still haven't quite recovered from the steep climb.
I think rather than playing some fairly soporific music, I'd have a recording of the crowds from the World Championships and just play that over the top of the race.
Well, it would certainly give a different atmosphere. It's quite sad once again that no spectators are allowed to watch these great races, and they put all the stands up ready for what, 15,000 people.
Yeah, well, I suppose we've got an option, Mike. I could do the comms, you do the cheering.
Right, starting from now. Come on, Johannes.
Now, let's see this time. We almost certain he's going to get the green light as he comes through 1.6. But how quick is he? Not quite as impressive as we've seen in the past. Christiansen in second place, 5.2 the margin. And in terms of distance, what are we looking at? 20 metres?
20 metres. I think this next section, so a glide down here, then the big wall, I think he'll pick up more time by the time he gets into the range, maybe 10 seconds.
Yeah, but push too hard on that big wall, Mike, and there's not a huge amount of time to recover. You ever do any pulse measurements at the top of the climb in all these Masters competitions that you do here?
Oh, just on survival.
so when you reach the top, you're near the max pulse.
Yeah.
And then what can you bring it down to before you shoot?
It's so difficult when you've taken it to your, 15 below max, 10 below max at the top of that wall. It's very difficult in the next minute because you're still skiing over the bridge and then you're still rising all the way up into the range. It's very difficult.
Which begs the question, why do they always host the Masters here?
Because they're the most friendly venue in the world. They're great at hosting those championships.
That's it, free accommodation for you this year.
No, it's a wonderful venue and passionate about their biathlon. Jakob Falk, he needed that last shot. He used to be so good at nailing it, that last shot, putting it down. Pegrushny, his left elbow goes further wide than most, but that's the way he builds his position. More of an A-frame.
Yeah, most people tuck the elbow underneath. We'll get a comparison soon enough. Sapala for Finland now. So, be nice to see him go well. So it's always nice coming to the countries where pronunciation of the athletes is difficult because the host broadcaster can tip you off.
Have to say, Lachipov is having the ski time of his life in the same second as Christiansen into the range, but pity he's missed that middle target.
Yeah, Lachipov fifth after at the first split. So the order at the moment in terms of ski speed, Johannes Tingsberg leading, Christiansen at 5.2, Rastaguyev, who started early at 7.3, Leigrid of Norway has just gone through in 6.6, and then Tarjebø at 7.5. So again, Mike, 4 Norwegians in the top 5 in terms of ski speed through to 1.6. Have they worked their magic again, the Techs, or do you think it's just that the top nation, they're the best nation to have started in Group 1?
I think the Techs, I think the Norwegian Techs are the best, and the ability to change the ski structures. Oh, we said last week, Philip Horny has some great days, but when he has a bad day, it's quite bad. 3 out of 5 isn't a great start to his race. Yeah, I think the skis again, the Norwegians have been out testing for so long, and they've got it very much right again.
Now, this is where Dahle's build comes in handy. Big, strong base to build on. Now we're looking at a prone target, so that'll be interesting. Is he going to get it?
Oh.
I think he's slightly puzzled by that, Mike.
He is totally confused. He's just thinking they must have felt good in his mind.
Well, I just wondered whether they'd actually switched it back to a standing target. Hope so. Because he looked pretty steady, and he was certainly bemused by the fact that 4 of them didn't go down.
He was totally bemused. The brain was saying they were hits. Johannes into the range. It's 17 seconds faster than anybody. The hill, he's destroyed them all.
He's often missed one on the first shoot, either the first or the last.
The eyepiece is metal. It presses in on his skull every time, but eventually the impact, it can make you flinch a little bit. It's a good start for him, though.
Yeah. Is he on the way to do what he did in Nowe Miesto? That was one of the best sprints we've seen so far this year. He went clear. He's got Gigenar to ski with, or Gigenar has Johannes Tingersberg to ski with on this loop. I think that's the way it's going to turn out. And now Gigenar will try and tuck in on his last lap. Loganov, having missed one, under a bit of pressure. Oh, fantastic rhythm. That was a sensational shoot, 21.6. And what you see with Loganov more than anyone else, Mike, is that positive movement just drops the rifle down. It never stays on he's not trying to hold it on the target, he's just moving the sights through the target.
I love that rhythm, and it's a rhythm that really, really works. You can create your own timing every single time you build your position and standing. That's the routine, and it's built into your breathing. I love it, and it works for Loganov. Anatoly, his coach, well, expressionless, but he's happy, very happy to see that the target's going down.
Simon Schemp with what I guess we could call an old school sequence of shooting. Nice to see 5 go down. I'd like to see Simon get a good performance, or a couple of performances here, Mike, simply because I think if it all goes pear-shaped over this weekend, we may not see him next year.
Yes, it would be very sad. Schemp, it hasn't gone well the last couple of years, and hitting the perfect 5, he's 24.9 behind.
That's all right. He's 24 behind the man who, in all probability, could win, and 24 seconds down on Johannes Tingersberg can still get you top 6.
It can. Johannes must have shot very slow. Didn't pick it up at the time, but he came into the range 17 ahead of anybody, and Benny Dahl is only 5 behind him as he exited the range. So, of course, Johannes Tingersberg taking a long time for that first shot.
Yeah, 12 seconds made up by the German on his prone shoot, Christiansen. So, clear on the first shoot. This will put pressure on those starting after him.
Christiansen, he looked so good last weekend. Even when he was fatigued on the last lap, he still kept his discipline, his technique excellent.
More often than not, he's missed one in the stand in the sprints this year, but this time he goes clean, as he did in Antolt, but he missed 3 in the prone on that occasion. So this could be his best sprint of the season, and may well push him close to the top 10 in the sprint standings come the end of the year. This could possibly be the last sprint of the year. Oslo, we're hearing, has been cancelled, but are they going to replace those races and race them here next week? We'll have to wait and get confirmation of that. So Johannes Tingersberg, he's got the company of, is that Benny Dahl just behind him?
That is Benny on his last loop. It is indeed.
Yeah, that's a handy position for Benny Dahl. That will really help his cause here today. And the margin now only 9.7.
Coming together to the finish
So the action on the range, great to see Sepala clearing again, his best ever performance just last week in Novo Mesto. And you know, it's so strange, you have a good race and that confidence comes into play, and this is his hometown, his home range, and once again, great to see him looking so comfortable on the skis and with the rifle. Pigrushny, ski speed was great last week, still great this week. Sadly for him, he's missed one first time in. You can see the range entrance time, he was, well, nearly 50 seconds behind, and that's with the including the prone missed shot. But he's straight out on the track again. No penalty loop for him in standing. These corners, they have had salt thrown on them, which takes the humidity out, surprisingly, of the water, of the track. But it's beginning to break up as well.
Well, I guess we're getting to the stage of the race where we can look at the splits at 1.6, Mike, and just we've got Jacquelin, who's gone through 8.4 off the leaders. He started 41, Samuelsson 8.7, and no one else starting outside the top 40 has managed to get further up the order. Do you think there are any changes as yet?
Well, Vindish I thought would get in there. Vindish is 10.7 behind, but 40th position. There's Anatoly. Again, he was hoping for Latypov to do a little better.
Now, Benny Doll, who's heading towards the finish, and I think striking lucky and finding himself just behind Johannes Tingesbø before he came in, Mike, that could be worth a good 10 seconds to his time. And should Johannes Tinges go and miss on the standing shoot, who knows? Might be worth a top 5 or 6.
Yes, even missing that one target, I think so. So he's matched Johannes Tingesbø in the last lap. In fact, passed him just before the turn off to the finish.
Well, that's a good margin. Very, very healthy margin. Gigenar into second. 10 out of 10. And Benny Doll, I suspect, would have been on the podium again.
So Johannes, entrance to the range time, he had a 5-second advantage leaving at the range after prone shooting. He's got a 17-second advantage on the leader into the stand shooting. It looks like his strategy today is just taking his time to the first shot and throughout the shooting rhythm. 17.2 is it's slow, but now he's opening up the shooting pace. Oh, fabulous. That's incredible.
Well, that is how to do it. And with 2 successive sprint wins, if he does win today, Mike, that might be the golden ticket to his 2nd successive Crystal Globe. And having sat out 2 rounds of the World Cup, you have to say he has been the best biathlete in the world this year, despite the fact that he hasn't been in yellow for the last month and a half.
It's the most unbelievable athlete. He's only taken part in 15 races. Today is 16, and he's won 9 of those 15. Some statistics, he's a class apart.
Well, Loganov off the boil a bit. 38 seconds lost to Doll of Germany, having shot exactly the same score. But what we do know about Benny Doll, Mike, is he let those rounds go to take, what was it, 7, 8, 9 seconds off Johannes Tinges on that last shoot of his.
Samuelsson has been desperate to have
That's better.
A top 5, a top 3 would be handy. It's looking better today.
Yeah, 8.7 was his deficit at 1.6. Coming into the range, Samuelsson, can't see him for some, right down in 24th place. So he's lost a lot of speed on the big climb. And actually, it's the steep climb, Mike, where the conditions are going to get slower and slower as it gets softer and softer.
Oh, it's just suction now. And Martin Fourcade, I wonder if the French team are regretting that most of their big names in Group 2 and 3, because Martin is was in 40th position through 1.6 kilometers. It was only 10.7 behind, but 40th position.
Is he going to do what his brother did? He may well do. That's a nice shoot. Both brothers shooting 10 out of 10. That must cheer up Ziggy Mazet. That will take his mind off the drizzle here in Kontiolahti. He's not quite as quick, but it's possible. It is possible. We'll see both of the brothers on the podium. He's got a little way to go. Doll on 34. So this is going to be interesting, Mike. We've seen it twice already this season. The brothers on the podium together.
I think it was here at the World Championships in this race where it was Johannes first, Terje both third.
It was.
First time they shared a podium together. It'd be great if they could do that again.
Arndt Pfeiffer, solid, good prone shoot from him. He was delighted to make top 3 in the mass start in Novo Mesto. And, you know, he's got to be coming towards the end of his career, but still, Mike, when he has a good day, he knows he can match nearly all the best. And
his movement, Pfeiffer, it looked like he's in his best form last week. I'm amazed that he's been put in Group 3 as well. Garanyshev, Anatoly. Just letting his coaches know. Anatoly came over here, lives in Moscow, an 8-hour drive from here, and he was based here for youth development in this club and spent many years here doing a great job looking after and developing all the juniors. And of course brought back in as national coach. He was national coach way back in the late 80s, early 90s, and a well-respected coach.
So coming out of the range after the second shoot, the margin was 21 seconds over Christiansen. And Johannes Tingesbø just losing a little bit of time to Christiansen, who's started well. Now, Martin Fourcade, how's the time? 19.5 coming in. He's almost a penalty loop behind already.
A little like Johannes, he's taking nearly 3 seconds per shot.
Well, he's got 5. One of the best in the world at making sure that the first 5 targets fall. Now, watch the clock tick away. Quite a way to ski before the timer will stop for Fourcade. Top 6 to secure the sprint title, should this be the last one. And he's a little bit off the mark, down in 9th place, 13.9 behind. He might just need a 10 out of 10, Mike, to stay top in the sprint standings.
Look at Jacquelin out in second. We didn't really pick up on that. He's hit the perfect 5 and he's only 1.8 behind Johannes Tingesbø.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one. That is good, but he's done what Dole did and made up a lot of time, because Jacquelin was some way behind, 13 down on Johannes Tingesbø coming in. Now, just a repeat of our current leader's performance. Seppala.
Perfect. Lefty, knows this range since he was a boy, and he's missed the first shot.
Have a look at the trigger finger. Takes that initial pressure.
Oh, he's running out of air.
Oh, that's messy. That's a real shame, especially after hitting 5 in the pro, and he was in a good position. Filmaye just entering the range for France. Now the time, 22.4, so he's in the... you know, skis were definitely a factor last week. I'm wondering how much fatigue is starting to come in. He's had a really, really tough season, raced every race, and we talked about it last week, the benefits of missing out not 1 round of the World Cup, but 2, because Johannes Tingesbø seems to be in a class of his own.
Very much, and it's not just missing those 6 races, it's the travel, the team life. He got away, he refreshed his thinking, and had an amazing experience in his life becoming a dad, and he's come back from that refreshed.
13.7 the margin, and that puts him into 9th position. He pushes Martin Fourcade down into 10th position. Standings in the Sprint World Cup, incidentally, and we can't take anything as we see it because of the possibility of next week's race not happening at all. We've got Martin Fourcade on 3:06, 18 points behind his Fiormé, so he's got a good chance if he can nail one here today. Tarjei Bø in third, and then Johannes Tingesbø down in fourth position, 43 points behind. Even if he wins today, Mike, if this is the last Sprint World Cup, Johannes Tinges is not taking this globe, surely.
Unlikely. I do wonder if the races stay here the way that Martin Fourcade is functioning on his skis. It's without a doubt advantage Johannes Tingesbø if this did go to a final. Hopefully we do get another World Cup next week.
So here he comes into the finish. This is going to be the target time, and he's pushed his lead to 30 seconds over Christiansen. Coming out of the range, it was at 21.7, so he took the initial part of the final loop fairly steady, and then he's just piled on the pressure on the big climb. Jacquelin, oh, Mike, he was 1.2 behind coming out of the range last time. Now he finds himself 20 adrift. This has got to be super quick and an unbelievable final loop. Another 10. He's the real deal, is Jacquelin. You know, his success at the World Championships was no flash in the pan.
No, I thought he looked exhausted last week. He probably is, but he's got that youthful self-confidence, the uncaring kind of attitude that he can still bullishly push on and get on the podium.
He might have clawed back a couple of seconds. He has 15.4. That's not going to be easy. But if there's a man who's going to fight for it, it will be him. And when we saw him in Nowe Miesto, when he was so tired on that last loop, the technique had completely gone. At the moment, he's beautifully relaxed on the skis, looking left, looking right. So well balanced.
I'm impressed. I was just going to relive last week and point out that he did lose some 38 seconds on his last lap. It doesn't look that way today. Smolski, from recent good form at the European Championships, at home for him in Minsk.
About 30% of those who finished have gone clear, just under, which is a pretty good record. Normally, what is it, 25% is a good day in the sprint. And Smolski joins their rank. Now, Tarjei Bø, can he just hold off Christiansen, who's sitting at 30.6? He was just behind him. He was some 4 seconds down on Christiansen, going through the 9.3 kilometer stage, so he's not had long, 700 meters to make that up. He's not going to make it. Leitner on 57 is certainly going down. Dahl is just squeezed out by 0.1 of a second, and that is what you get for putting in a lot of effort. He thinks it may be good enough for third, but with Jacquelin on his last loop, Mike, and Jacquelin some way ahead of Tarjei Bø at the start of that last loop.
Well, yes, Jacquelin's had 12 seconds, or is 12 seconds ahead of Tarjei Bø as he left the range. That's a huge margin, 12 seconds.
3 Norwegians, 1, 2 and 3 at the moment. All of them have shot the perfect 10 out of 10. They're going to have a field day in the pursuit.
And I think, yeah, the aspect we've witnessed from the Norwegian team is that they have backed off. They know they ski fast, and Mazet is great at doing mind management. Calm down, you're fast enough to win, let's hit the target. So he's calmed them down on the range, and I really like that change late on in the season.
Now, Pfeiffer's not going to win this. 40 seconds would put him in 5th, should he get to the end with the same deficit.
Remember,
now we should try and get an update on Jacquelin on the final loop.
Yeah, he should be through 8.2 fairly soon. I was just going to say, Germans at the World Championships here in, what, 1999, they took 1, 2 and 3.
Yeah, it was particularly cold weather that day, so that was another ski factor, a technician's day.
Oh, minus 23, it was awful.
The championships went on and on and on.
Well, 40 seconds is Pfeiffer. His ski speed was good last weekend. The bib 46, not sure it's an advantage. We said that at the start of the race.
logging off with the most impressive standing shoot so far today. But logging off ski time not as quick as it was a couple of weeks ago. And Granichev just throwing one wide. That's a shame. 49.9. If he could stay within a minute, he would have made a top 10, which would have been a great way to draw his season to a close. Martin Fourcade on the range. This is key. Top 6, remember, to ensure he takes the sprint globe. Phil Maillet is his nearest challenger, but Phil Maillet actually is some way off the mark. That's nice. Very, very nice from Martin Fourcade, but it may not be enough to secure the overall globe, despite the fact that he's leading all the way. He may keep the yellow bib right until the last race of the year, Mike, and then have it snatched from him at the end of that.
Well, will it be the end of this week, the last race? Will someone jump in? Will Kontiolahti say, yes, we can stage next week? I hope they can.
Well, what a pursuit it's going to be if it does come down to it. I guess by the weekend we'll know what the score is with Oslo. We've heard it's been cancelled, but yet to have any confirmation as to whether they'll try and replace it here. That would, logistically, would that be all right?
I think it would. Hotels obviously an issue, but I'm sure that they would cope in this area. There's plenty outreaching villages that would accommodate. I don't think that would be a problem.
It's not exactly the high season yet for this part of the world.
As we look at the standings there, look at Fourcade. He's just, what, 3 seconds? 4 seconds ahead of Tarja Bo at this stage. Could be critical, Tarja's time.
Yeah, that's a good comeback from Fourcade, down in 8th after the first shoot. So he skied hard on the second lap. And now we'll see what he's got for the final 3.3. Granichev, we saw miss on that standing shoot, finds himself 1:12 behind. And Lapshin, one of the very, very early starters, outside the top 15 at the moment.
As Sepala comes in, Jacqueline is not losing time at 8.2. He's only lost a second from the range to Johannes Tingesbo. He should be through 9.3 kilometers very soon.
Well, I'll have a little wager with you if you fancy that that gap will grow to 20 come the top of the climb and the entry into the finish. That seems to be where Johannes Tingesbo has been taking time out of everyone. Now, Phil Maillet. He really needs to win to think of taking the sprint globe, but 31 behind coming in, that's not going to happen.
Patrick Favre, we saw him there. He must be happy with the shooting. In fact, this is the same shooting score 2 years ago when he finished 3rd, the last time a sprint race World Cup came here. He finished 3rd. He was only 17 seconds off the podium. Not quite as fast today.
29.9. Johannes Tingesbo still leading. Christiansen in 2nd, Burt in 3rd, Doll in 4th, but the French are on their way to the finish.
Johannes Tingesbo, the time is already out, but Japan has a great opportunity to put some risk to the Norwegian wheels and take the 2nd position from Dr. Christiansen. Let's see how it goes. Japan from France takes the 2nd position, 2025.
Мы ждем к финишу Фуркада, пока он проходит отметку 4-м.
Tulee ammuntaa ja mikäli ampuu puhtaasti kamppailee jopa kärkipaikassa tässä vaiheessa ainakin sijoituksessa tuonne 5 parhaan joukkoon.
Финишную черту пересекает Виндель Доминик, спортсмен из Италии.
Welcome back to Kontiolahti. This is Emilien Jacquelin after his effort here today. Another perfect shoot from him. And coming out of the range, he was only 15.4 behind. Kept that at about 16 seconds to the base of the big climb. But as expected, losing another 4 or 5 seconds on the climb. So second the best that Jacquelin can hope for today. And Christiansen sitting at 30.6 is going down into third. Tariabur is going off the podium. And the French mounting a challenge. Going to be interesting to hear the after-race chat. Did they make the right decision going for groups 2 and 3? Should they have tried to go in group 1 as well? Not a bad effort. He's rapidly becoming France's #1.
I love the way, even when he's exhausted, he keeps control. He doesn't stress.
Fourcade up to 8.2, 25.5. He's got a little way to catch Christiansen, who is just under 5 seconds ahead of him at this stage. But at 8.2, he's still got plenty, 1,800 meters to make up those 5 seconds. He may not be as good as he was in his prime, Mike, but he still has the same head and the same fight.
Oh, and I think the head, he's extraordinary. He has changed biathlon. He is the only athlete, when it came to mass start or pursuits, he wouldn't melt down on the last 5 shots standing. And he's still got that strength today. The mind strength is quite phenomenal.
Here we go. This is where he can get the 5 seconds. He started hard at the base of the climb. I think Sergei Sidik, who's just ahead of him, may have company fairly shortly. He was 25 behind. Christensen on 33. Wow, look at that. That is a phenomenal recovery. 7, so that's 12 seconds he's taken out of Christensen between 8.2 and 9.3. I think Christensen actually, Mike, coming out of the range like a rocket, and he's paid the price on the latter stages. But Fourcade might pay the price for pushing so hard. He might just get ahead of Emilien Jacquelin, and that would be a fitting way to secure the sprint crystal globe.
You know, he really wants this today. This is Fourcade at his best. He's tired. He's physically tired without a doubt, but this is him digging deeper than, well, we saw him last week dig deep. He's got the same thing again this week. Exhausted and losing a little of his balance.
Jacquelin watching on. His deficit of 22.3 could well be bettered. We're into the last 100 meters. Martin Fourcade is still flying for France. Here he goes, round the last little corner. He could do without the traffic in front of him, but he won't have any problem getting past number 49. That's Dombrovski. Here he goes. Every half second could count. 22.3 the margin he's after. He's going to be inside. Just makes it up into second place. And Johannes Tingesbø, the only man to better Martin Fourcade today. He looked frustrated. He wanted top spot, Mike, but if he got an accurate split coming out of that shoot, the second shoot, 23 behind, he was never going to make that margin up on Johannes Tinges.
So impressive. In fact, his track time, he's taken 2 seconds out of Johannes Tingesbø to move himself from 4th to 2nd. That's a great effort. And maybe the temperature now, as local time 5:15, dropping a little.
And that is so important for the overall, Mike. By my calculation, we only had 13 points between them at the start of today. Once you've taken the 2 worst results away, Johannes Tingesbø with that 13 points, add another 6, so we're up to 19 points. That could easily swing in one race. It's a pursuit, and it's a pursuit with high pressure.
And then, of course, relays on Sunday, but massive high pressure on the pursuit.
I just get a feeling we'll see a meltdown from someone. It's going to be a fascinating race. And if we miss Oslo next week and those races don't happen, we're still going to have some climax to the season.
Without a doubt, huge pressure building. Theo Maed's, for me, a big surprise. He's hit 10 out of 10, but still out there, 40 seconds behind 7th place.
So, Dessieux, 10 out of 10. Fourcade, 10 out of 10. Jacquelin, 10 out of 10. Dessieux, 10 out of 10. All the big names finding the conditions here very easy. And this is one of the resorts that a lot dread coming to because it's usually so windy.
Oh, 90% of the time, the wind plays a big factor in this race. It did at the World Championships 2015. And for me, that makes it even more exciting.
Yeah, Simon Shem usually goes pretty well when there's no wind. He's gone clear. He went clear on the prone. He started fairly early. Just looking for Schemp. He's not got himself into the top 25 today as we watch Phil Maillet come in. Hasn't matched Fourcare's effort over the last lap. And surprisingly, with 10 hits, 2 weeks ago, you'd expect him to be challenging for the win, but 39.7. The wheels are starting to come off, I think, for Phil Maillet. Fatigue setting in a big way. And I just wonder how much that mass start, where the French had dreadful skis last week, how much that has affected their bodies.
Yeah, it's a factor. You have to push even harder, and when the glide factor isn't there, you get annoyed when you're skiing around, and maybe it is a small factor. He took himself to the wall there last weekend. This is a good time from Eden Salo. Extra weight added onto these barrels are light nowadays. You know, you've got a rifle that's 3.75, 3.8 kilos. Doesn't make it easier to shoot. Feels your pulse through it and any wind that there is, but he certainly made that look easy in 29.9 seconds.
Fabien Claude of France, Mike, has gone through the first shoot with the best time in the French team, bar Emilien Jacquelin, and he started number 74, so maybe they didn't make such a bad decision going a bit later.
It appears so now, doesn't it? The corners, it was splashing earlier, less splash factor now, and even a tiny little bit of icing on the top surface is increasing the glide factor.
Yeah, and the temperature has dropped, what, 1.5 degrees during the race, and that is pretty key, but it's still so soft from the earlier temperatures that you sort of feel that has to sap the strength out of the body.
Yeah, you're not getting the same pace, if you like. So normally, what, 27 kilometers an hour, 26, 25, 25 and a half in these conditions. And you're digging in. It's like running in sand. Your energy is being absorbed.
So who did you use when it came to choosing groups? Were you just on the internet looking at the weather forecast, or did you have a guru that you used to contact?
Oh, I would always try and go earlier, given the option.
But you must have looked at the weather. It must have been a deciding factor.
Absolutely. You had to check the local weather, and that was all. Information's always given out well at the team captain. So the day before, midday, the day before you put your entries in.
But the big teams don't rely on the team captain's meeting. They're going elsewhere.
Not anymore. I'm talking about the old days. Nellin, that was very good. Needs that.
Samuelsson started and finished well. He hit 10 out of 10 and is in 10th position at the moment. Nellin at 58.7. If he keeps that, he's got a chance, because 57.7 is good enough for the top 10. Now here is Claude, who we were talking about earlier on, and he joined the rest of the French for the perfect shoot. Whoa,
oh,
that was
so
almost
happy.
as good as Loganov, not quite as quick, 24.5, and the French don't seem to be able to miss. I think we could have our greatest number of clear shoots. We've certainly got the highest number in the top 10 that we've ever seen. 9 out of 10 have gone the perfect score so far.
I'm so happy for Claude. He deserves some good luck after his tragedy earlier in the season. And, well, he was out of favour in terms of the grouping, the best possible group, but he's certainly made every advantage count for him. Patrick Favre, he knows how it works here. The World Championships on this distance back in '99, he came second on that minus 23 degrees day. Very different today.
Sweden, an indifferent season. Is that a fair comment? Certainly, if you look at the sprint standings, we've got Samuelsson, who's down in, what, 33rd position?
Yeah, I think they would even look at almost disappointing season this year with their great expectations after the World Championships, the success at the World Championships in Östersund last year.
Yeah, I've done Samuelsson out. He's in 23rd, not 33rd.
Not bad.
But still, you know, by his standards, we'd expect to see him in the top 15 at least. Bakarnikov with a good, clear shoot. I think Loganov was the fastest we've seen in the stand.
Yeah, right. Reaction shooting, pure reaction shooting. That was pretty good from Bukharnikov. And straight after the World Championships, Bukharnikov went back home to the European Champs, raced another 5 races, and you can just feel the energy. He's totally fatigued with 3.3 kilometers left.
Well, it gets to the stage, surely, where you're there and you're participating, but you're not really racing. You're going at your standard speed.
They must all be on that fatigue feeling. Maybe not so much Johannes Tingesbo, having only completed individual races, 16. Of course, he's done many relays as well. All these athletes have done 6 more races than Johannes. Great shooting. You said it from the French team. I'm just trying to Gigan. Missed one. The rest have been pretty much spot on, 100%.
Yeah, Norway have virtually matched them, except for Bjørntegard, who missed 2. Norway with Johannes Tingesbo clear. Tarjei Bo's gone clear. Christiansen's gone clear. Ligrid has gone clear as well. Now, Dessieux. And by my calculation, top 7 is about the best he can hope for, unless he has managed to claw back 4-5 seconds in the last 500 meters. This looks as though it's worth, this attack is certainly worth a couple of seconds, Mike. He's hungry for a top 5. Tarjei Bo on 34. It's going to be close as he comes up round the corner and can see the finish now. Simon Dessieux just missing out on the top 5. Filme on 39.7. Is he going to survive? It's close. Just misses that. And down into 8th place. But as far as the French go, 4 athletes in the top 8 at the moment. 3 Norwegians, 4 French, and Benny Doll, the only man, Germany, of course, in there, apart from those 2 nations. And those have been the 2 dominant nations all the way through the year.
They really have. A sprinkling of Russia there in the early part of the season in December, with Elisiev and, of course, Loganov, of course, on the podium a couple of times early season. Patrick Favre on the left, he's the one who came second at the World Championships 1999. Frank Bideau, is he praying for his happiness that the men's shooting is so good? He'd love the women's shooting to be the same tomorrow.
It may be. Late start for Martin Jäger. Highlight of Switzerland's season, certainly the women's performances in the relays. They've got some good juniors coming up, Mike, and that's quite exciting for 3-4 years' time.
Very much so, yes. Medals and team medals at juniors. And, of course, final flutter of junior races being held in Hochfilzen. And in fact, that program's been dragged forward a couple of days to get it done and dusted earlier.
Just looking at the latest starters, Jäger into 14th place. Well, I think that's a very good indication, Mike, that the snow is getting quicker now as the temperature just goes through that critical stage. He's looking for the cooler parts of the track, which is intelligent skiing from Jäger. Yes, it's softer, but there's more ice in there than there is water now, and the downhills are going to be rapid.
I think so, and the athletes are going over to the edge as well, where it's...
As it was, and no change to the leaderboard. Johannes Tingesbo who takes the win, 22-27, his 2nd successive sprint win, and he now tops the World Cup in terms of points. So let's have a look at the top 10. Beur, Foucault, Jacquelin, the familiar names who are still going strong, the ones who were the stars of the World Championships in Antolz 3 weeks ago. Christiansen and Tarjei Bo 4-5. Benny Doll, best of the rest, effectively, with the French-Norwegian domination. And Arndt Pfeiffer, again, a podium last week, top 10 this week. There's still some life left in him.
There is 40 seconds to find, though, on Johannes. But he'll be looking at there's less than 30 to make it up onto the podium on Saturday, sorry.
And a mass of clean shoots. What do we have? Over 25 of the 104 athletes shooting the perfect score. We got just about 25% perfect hit rate, which is exceptionally good, but Kontiolahti uncharacteristically quiet in terms of wind conditions today, and very, very quiet in terms of crowd noise. No one allowed in, and that is going to remain the same for the rest of the week.
No spectators, but nice background music.
Everyone's allowed their own choice. Important things, we've got the women's sprint tomorrow, same start time, 16:30 local, so 2:30 if you're watching in the UK. Hope you can join us for that, and a real battle going on for their globe as well. Well, they'll all head back to the town of Joensuu, and there may be a little celebration in the French camp. They've done exceptionally well today, and Emilien Jacquelin getting third place. Must have thought second was coming his way when he saw he was a fair chunk ahead of Martin Fourcade. He was 9 seconds ahead of Fourcade coming out of the range. But if there's one man who likes starting behind the favourites, it is this man. He can pull something special out of the bag on the last loop. Doesn't seem no matter how exhausted he is. And he's done it today to keep his hopes of winning the Crystal Globe alive. Second place, 54 points. If every single race of the season counted, maybe he would. Well, he would certainly be hot favourite to take it. But here's the man who's come back strong since his absence from the Tour. Races 8, 9, 10, 11. That, of course, was Oberhof and Ruhpolding. He missed those, and he certainly looks fresher than anyone else in the final part of the season. Johannes Tingesbo with another win. Mazet likes it, and so he should. 2 consecutive sprints hitting the perfect score, and that is his 48th World Cup win, the half century just round the corner.
Johannes, congratulations, what a great performance. Can you tell, first of all, about the competition today?
It was quite nervous competition. I felt pressure from start today, and took time on my prone shooting to try to secure 5 targets. It's a bit of a risk when you shoot that slow, but when I hit 5, my bet was a good bet. And yeah, coming into the standing, I was with quite high pulse, but yeah, 3 seconds before I start to shoot, I felt relaxed, and I was quite confident.
Can you tell us how difficult it is to prepare for this competition when you know the overall is at stakes and so much can still happen in any possible form?
Yeah, it's big competitions and a big fight for the World Cup overall. But even though it was the same for last week, I have to just take race by race, and yeah, with all things in the news picture nowadays, you have to just pretend that you will follow the normal race procedure. And this morning we heard the Holmenkollen was cancelled, so we don't really know what happens yet. So it's a little bit harder to focus for the race, but you have to just pretend that you do the normal race the next days ahead.
Thank you, congratulations.
Thanks.
A little bit of self-kidology just to keep him motivated. Very difficult for him, Mike, because if there are 3 races left of the season, he can pace himself. If it's just 1 race, he has got to go to town in terms of mental preparation.
Incredible. And that's, you know, when he heard that Oslo was cancelled, his home city is cancelled, as he said, he felt the pressure severely this morning. He coped well.
So that's it from Kontiolahti. Thanks for your company. Do join us tomorrow. The women's sprint at 2:30.
honors for the prize in the ceremony of the ultimate World Cup Biathlon men's 10 kilometers sprint competitions. The prizes and flowers will be handed over by the representative here they go, and the president of the Finnish Biathlon Federation, Mr. Kontiolahti. Third on today's competition, representing France,
I was 1.8 behind you in top last.
second representing France, Puchar.
You were with him?
And then you made extra slow.
Yeah. Oh, you have
And the winner of the men's sprint competition here in Kontiolahti, representing Norway, Johannes Bø. Siinä kärkikolmikko, there's the top three for today. Johannes Bø, Martin Fulkar, Emilie Jacquelin. Kilpailun neljäs, fourth, Vetle Shasta Christiansen, Norway. Vides, fifth, from Norway, Takibø. Sixth, representing Germany, Benedikt Dahl. And there's the full top six today with Johannes Bø, Martin Fulkar, Emilie Jacquelin, Vetle Shasta Christiansen, Takibø, and Benedikt Dahl.
Yeah, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, ready to go on a bit of ski jumping.
Cover the map and still ain't know where you can find me at. Journey through the mind of an insomniac. I ain't never switch, staying ready, keep